Croeso nôl, welcome to the latest Fearless in Devotion podcast, sponsored, of course, by the finest establishment in town, the Fat Boar Bar and Restaurant. We put the podcast back by a couple of days this week because, well, to be frank, we were hoping and praying that there was going to be some news. Guess what? There has been some news, so all the more happy for us. Should we start with the big one? That today we have signed Lewis Brunt from Leicester City. There was quite a big build up to it online. We had the whole social media trail and what seems to be now customary. We got to watch a HP printer for 5 minutes before you find out who we sign. One person I spoke to today in passing said, "Oh God, not that again." But I think fair to say that everyone was pretty happy once the signing was revealed. Andy, your thoughts?
I thought it was a cracking signing. Left field, wasn't expecting it. Nice to fuck over Mansfield, I'll be honest. And it's great that we're having a change in pitch in who we're signing. We're going away from 29-year-olds on 3-year deals, and we're signing 23-year-olds, people who can be the spine of our team for as we go through the divisions. Brunt has got a lot of potential. He's left-sided. They're quite rare. Can play left-back, can play left-hand side of the defence. I think that's probably where he will play, and I think that's good that you've got 3 ball-playing centre-halves there. You've got Max one side. You've probably got Owen O'Connell in the middle, and you've got Lewis Brunt on the left. With Arthur behind them, I mean, that is still a pretty young back unit. Even O'Connell's only 28, 29. You've got a lot of mileage in a lot of years with those people. I'm overjoyed that that's the sort of person we're signing rather than a 31-year-old. Now, we probably will sign a 31-year-old later in Tommy Bradshaw, but let's put that to one side. It's perfect because we know these are the sort of players we need to be attracting if there's going to be long-term growth in the club. Because not only can they grow with us, we could actually sell them. If they really develop, we could sell them, make a lot of money, and wipe out any debts that we're having in one fell swoop. That is how you make money in football. You take talent, you develop it, you make it better, you sell it on.
What about you, Andrew? Right sort of profile for you?
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at the details of it, it's like 34 games, league games last year for Mansfield, who had the best defensive record in the league with 47 conceded. As Andy said, only 23 years of age, from Leicester, came through at Villa. So there's like a pedigree there already. 6'1", covers other positions, I believe, central defensive midfield, also left-sided, left back. So I think for me, it's just like a really encouraging signing. And like Andy said, it's not necessarily a massive name as such, but it's one very much with an eye on the now and the future, whether that's with us or whether that's, again, if it comes down in a couple of years' time where we end up selling them on for a nice profit. But yeah, it's a very exciting signing. It's a nice one to wake up to today. It wasn't the one we were expecting. It was very left field, but I like left field.
Yeah, happy days, isn't it, Tim?
Wake up to what time did you get up?
You on US time, were you, Andy?
Not me.
Yeah,
well, I suppose wake up to, yeah. No, as in the news I woke up to this morning was like, oh, it looks like we're going to be getting Tommy Bradshaw in. That's the news I woke up to. And
you were woken up by a printer, weren't you? There was a printer.
I can clarify. I was awake at 7:15, a very reasonable, respectable time. Yeah, and then I just lay in bed until 2:00, obviously waiting for Instagram to show me a printer.
Tim, you're a big fan of printers. Did you enjoy that signing announcement?
Yeah, it was all right, wasn't it? It was all right. It's just a thing now, but I couldn't believe it. I think it peaked out at about nearly 5,000 people logging in. Admin must be sat there pissing themselves laughing, going, these idiots are just staring at a computer waiting ready to click into action for 4 minutes or however long it took. I like the small print. The actual contract's quite funny if you look at that, and not allowed to go into Chester, and the whole thing about going back to Las Vegas and stuff again. It's all in the small print. But yeah, very left field signing. They've kept it hush hush, which is the club's prerogative. That's what they kind of want to do and stop the leaks and stuff. But you can't argue with weakening an opponent. Obviously, Mansfield fans are absolutely fuming because obviously Nigel Clough had identified him as their number one target. So for him to come here shows that we're heading in the right direction and bringing the average age down of the squad. He looks a little bit like Blaine Hudson. I think, when I first looked at it. I was like, it reminds me of something. And I realized it looked a little bit like Blaine Hudson and that. I don't know. It's just kind of oblivious to the wildness he's just kind of come into. But I think it'll be solid. I think he will free up the burden that maybe Max may or may not be feeling when you're the young face of that back line. And we all know he's handled it really, really well, especially last season, the way he's come on. But it definitely helped to have another younger face in that sort of grizzled old back line. That'll definitely help. And nice to have a bit of speed, nice to have a bit of pace. We've been crying out for pace for ages, and you need it across the pitch. So definitely a big step in the right direction.
Liam, Tim just mentioned there that Mansfield fans will be fuming. We've got a Mansfield fan in the waiting room. Now, I know he was supposed to be coming in 5 minutes, but he's an eager beaver and he probably wants to watch the footy. Should we get him in now and drill him on Brunt before we go through the rest of the...
Let's rub it in a bit, shall we? Yeah, that sounds...
Okay.
We've got a fan question for him as well, so we'll have that.
Right, Tim, you introduce him. I'm letting him in now. It's Craig Priest, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So he's just logging on now. Let's see if he actually comes on pre-crying.
Is he going to choose violence or decorum as one or the other? At the moment, he's chosen
nothing. He's not choosing not putting his camera on or connecting to the...
He's chosen incognito, basically.
While we wait, should we just discuss the terms of the deal, that it's a 3-year deal on a contract until 2027, an undisclosed fee forked out as well.
How much do we reckon there? 200k, 300k? It's not
think
going to break our transfer record, is it? But I tell you what, Leicester need to be selling players for this football fair play thing, and the best thing that it can do is sell young players for an actual fee. So I reckon there's some money paid there, and I don't reckon it's like 20 grand or anything like that.
No. Yeah, but Nigel Clough said they couldn't afford it, and Mansfield suggests it's a decent wedge.
Yeah.
There was talk of whether Steve Cooper had done us any favours. They're obviously recently appointed at Leicester, so that's a Wrexham connection there. Signed until 2027. Spent the whole of last season on loan with Mansfield, I think I'm right in saying. And he also gifted us a goal at the racecourse, if I remember rightly. So he obviously knew then that he was going to sign for us and thought, right, well, I better do these guys a favour.
Yeah, good on him. Good on him.
Just while we wait for our guest, should we just move on quickly to a couple of other transfer rumours? Because there have been a bit of a flurry, haven't there, this week? We've had, as Andy mentioned before, Tom Bradshaw from Millwall, 32-year-old striker. Was it 31?
I think it's 32 in November, if I remember.
Yeah, that's one of the...
It's been known.
That's one of the players we've been linked to. What do you reckon to that one? Obviously, championship pedigree, but we sort of it feels like we wince a bit now when an older player's linked with us, perhaps unfairly, really.
Right, I've got a Millwall snout who works with me at the Mirror. So I said to him, Tom Bradshaw, any good? Signing today? ? This is before I didn't realise it wasn't him on that printer. Yes, very good player. Been injured a bit this season. Proper goal poacher, though. When he's fit, he's 18 goals this season in the championships. He also works his bollocks off. So, I mean, not what I expected. I expected more of an Ollie Palmer sort of foil to Mullin rather than a poacher himself. Tim, have you ever seen him for Wales?
Yeah, seen him a few times, and it's a weird one, really, because when you're a player in that position, you're coming in behind, I suppose, more celebrated players in that place, whether it's Bale past and present, and the likes of 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐬𝐧𝐭 and stuff like that. Harry Wilson, who's been scoring some goals. It's a bit of a difficult one because it's kind of felt like he's flown below the radar a bit. Almost speaking to other Wales fans, it just felt more like he was just a squad addition as opposed to a valued member of the squad. But he has got more and more game time in recent years, and every time he's come on, he's looked handy. That's all I can say, really, from my recollection of him. Is that physically very, very, very strong. Always looking to sort of play the ball early, and he won't cough up possession easy if we get hold of him. So who knows? A lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about the age," but it's all about balance, isn't it? We've just got two lads in who are sort of very young in comparison to what we've got. So it's all about getting that balance right. But yeah, him, and obviously Joe Morrell's been mentioned as well, who Liam has just found out has officially announced his departure from Portsmouth. So yeah, he is off to pastures new. Whether they be the Stoke Kairas, only time will tell.
Yeah, a lot of Pompey fans quite gutted about that. Seems to be something of a sort of a cult hero figure there for them. Obviously, got promotion with him this season, albeit he got injured towards the end of the season. Do you think
shall I just read what he said to Pompey fans? So,
Yeah,
Joe
sure.
J. Morrell on Instagram, a special football club that will always have a place in my heart. 105 appearances, not as many goals, and a few red cards, but most importantly, a League One winners medal. It's always meant so much to me to play for this football club, and I hope that always comes across. I'll always be proud to say that I played for Pompey. I just want to say thank you to the players, staff, supporters for everything over the last 3 years, and wish everyone connected with the club all the best for the future as I sign for Wrexham. I might have added those last few words.
Andrew, what do you think is what we need in midfield? What should we really be looking for in this transfer market in that position?
Yeah, I just think it's I mentioned it on the other week where I think it's just kind of a case of getting upgrades to the players we've lost, really. And in this case, I think it's a huge upgrade on, say, Luke Young. That's if and when the signing does happen. It's that sort of player where I'd have him alongside George Evans, Gorgeous George, who I'm sure we will talk about a little bit later on in the pod. But yeah, I think he just slots in right alongside there, more in competition with an Andy Cannon than say a George Evans or an Elliot Lee. And I think that's, again, it's like an exciting three there. The options as well, because obviously there's still other players around there. James Jones being one of them. So it's yeah, I think that and Tom Bradshaw, if we can get those two over the window,
what a
to go with what
spine!
we've got.
That is a great spine, isn't it?
Exactly. And I mean, I've always got a soft spot for Tom Bradshaw because he's an Aberystwyth boy, so the most magical place in the world. So yeah, he's got him. It is, trust me, it's amazing. So yeah, and I think with him as well, 8 seasons in the Championship. Yes, 31 years of age. It's not the youngest signings, but that's an indication of quality there. The 8 Wales caps. I just think, yeah, those two, we get those two over the line with the ones we've been linked with already and signed already, then it's like all of a sudden the rants you see on social media about like get some deals done, we need players, we don't need extensions being done, blah 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 blah. All of a sudden those people just go quiet, which is always nice because please.
Last thing on Bradshaw, I'm just inviting Craig back in now. Last thing on Bradshaw, I do think he's an Ollie upgrade. I think he'll play that Mullin foil role. I think he's got probably a little bit of everything, which, Ollie has, to be honest. He's a big lad, but he's got a fair bit of skill himself, can set up, can score goals. I think Bradshaw can do all that Ollie does, but maybe a little bit better. So, I'm not too bothered by the age. I do I've got a question mark on Ollie long term this season, though. So Craig is trying to get in, but is still without his camera and being really quiet. I think he's steving so much he can't work his Mac.
It's just a piss again. He's just come on just to wind us up as some sort of
exactly. Well, you've taken Brunt. Now I'm going to do a move that sounds like that. And
you've taken Brunt. I'll just take the piss. Basically, what he's doing.
While we wait, one other signing that might be happening: Wes Harding. So going back to Millwall again. Now, again, I've gone back to my Millwall snout, and I said, Wes Harding, any good? He's all right, quick, back up for us, but wants to play first team football. We had Tinanga last season, and he didn't get a look in. Had a little run of games, and I didn't mind him. So a Millwall fan who didn't mind a player, I think that's a result for a Millwall player, isn't it? If you don't mind someone, usually they're
that's not very Millwall, is it?
Yeah, Mike's quite urbane, I'm going to be honest. But I said to him, look, can he play right wing back? Because I think that's where we might be looking. I love the spine of the team, but I do still think we might be lacking either side on wing backs. And if Wes Harding, he's a Jamaican international, I think. He's very quick. He's probably a little bit more defensive-minded than Barnett, but surely we need that, don't we? Surely there will be games where we go away from home where we're not going to employ that sort of high press, where we're going to have to defend a little bit, and we might need something a little bit different. So I wonder if Harding is going to come in to sort of strengthen that right-hand side with Barnett and with, the other guy, I've forgotten his name.
Anthony Ford. On Luke Bolton. Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Well, Ford as well, you see. I mean, we are running out of squad paces, but the good thing about Ford is he can play across left, right, and the centre. So if that rumor is true, I expect him more to be that sort of right wing back.
Has this flurry of sort of transfer rumours, do you think it's, or news rather, as we seem to be getting now, do you think it's coinciding with the ending of contracts? Andy mentioned it earlier in the group chat. It just seems to have all come out all at once.
Yeah, things will move around now because people will be making their moves to clubs, and people who you didn't think were available a couple of weeks ago may now become available. And while the likes of Bradshaw might come to us, Millwall, I bet you've got 2 or 3 people that they're looking at who now they can go and approach properly. So yeah, I think the jigsaw will start to move around now. I also think that now pre-season has started, Parkinson is thinking in earnest about getting that squad together, and maybe he didn't need to 2 weeks ago. And why rush? You know, if you come in straight away and say, look, I want this player, they know it's Wrexham. They're going to say, well, the agent's going to say he wants this to sign. And if the club is going to say, well, we want this for him, you know, you can't be too eager on stuff like this. And you do have to wait a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a bit greedy after that announcement, but is that sort of, anyone think of any other areas that they really want us to see strengthen sort of over others?
Club shop with kits would be a strong area. To be perfectly honest, but that's a different night now.
Third time lucky for Craig. We're trying again. Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig, lad.
I still think another centre half. That's about it. But the rest of it, I'm relatively happy with what we've got, because obviously in years prior we've been buying League One players, League Two players. George Evans obviously dropped down from the Championship last season, so I think we've got a really good basis there, and the additions we've made, it's like I'm cool, man. Maybe I'm just very relaxed and too relaxed on this, but give me another centre half, and I'm a happy badger.
Is it because you got your Netherlands shirt on? Is that what's making you feel so
that's
relaxed?
It. Yeah, I've been watching the football and getting baked. That's it, in my clogs while eating cheese. Yeah, only one of those things happened, and it was watching the football. Just to clarify. Yeah,
you were wearing clogs, yeah.
No clogs. There is a nice bit of corduroy on. I'm not sure that's a Dutch thing, but yeah.
Tim, what about you? What sort of areas are you gasping to see a new player?
Gasping.
That's a terrible word.
Next time I get into my seat, we're going to bring that position. Fucking hell. Yeah, it's a weird one, really, because you know, who are we shifting out that then gets us all a little bit worried? Like, oh, we've let them go. Do we need to then dip in there? And I don't know. There's this weird thing about are we still? Is there still a strange question mark over the striker kind of stable? Because we've still not really seen enough of Marriott. Yeah, he scored in that Forest Green game. He's looked lively in parts, but it hasn't really worked out in the manner that we might have hoped, perhaps. And then obviously you got the Mullin Palmer thing, which is so hard to break as a partnership, because when it's on song, it's on song. It's as simple as that. You'd expect Bickerstaff to probably go out on loan, almost certainly. And then Dolby, you know, is there an expectation he might go out on loan? Same with Billy Waters as well. So you then think, do we need somebody else? Because we all know that Fletcher is there as a person that's going to be largely an impact sub or the cup games, you know, that sort of stuff, really. But you don't see him as a starter unless we have like a disastrous injury. And then that kind of brings me on to the Mullin thing. A few eagle-eyed observers have noticed that he's not been part of the pre-season training. He's not back in training yet. Nowhere to be seen in the behind-the-scenes footage, which, you know, to be fair, the club is very, very good. The sort of output they're putting out at the moment really ramped it up. He's not to be seen, and there's been murmurs that he may have had an operation, like a back operation, which supposedly may curtail him for several weeks. So
he's here. We got him.
Here.
Who, Paul Mullin?
Yeah. Paul Mullin's come on live now. He's put some glasses on. He's put.
Therein lies that potential bullshit or potentially truth about Mullin being injured. We generally don't know. It's just what we've heard. But if he is recovering, get well soon, Mills. That's all we can say. Anyway, I'll introduce Craig, the ghost in the machine, for about 10 minutes. So we'll come to you straight in. Craig Priest of Mansfield Town Matters podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for not playing a practical joke, because there was a small cynical part of me that's saying we've taken one of their players that they wanted and he's taking the mick here. So welcome. Thanks for taking time out. How are you?
Yeah, pleasure. I mean, first and foremost, I'm not Mansfield Analytics, so I wouldn't play that sort of practical joke. No, I've not turned the Mac on since the end of last season, and I thought I'd turn it on to that, everything would be fine. But turns out, doesn't like me, so there you go. But no, I'm absolutely fine. Thanks so much for having me on. Obviously, a disappointing day from a Stag's fan's point of view, but I think we all knew it was coming at some point, really. And I think 99% of us are really, really pleased for Brunty that he's got himself a decent move to a good League One side. I think we're just a little bit frustrated that we put a bid in and it was turned down. And then obviously you guys have got a little bit of a more sizable checkbook than what we have, and money talks at the end of the day, doesn't it? So we wish you all the best.
The Radfords aren't exactly short of a bob or two, are they?
They're not, but what they are is they're very shrewd in the way they do business, which I think has stood them in good stead for the tenure that they've been at the club for. And this is, this is not a slant on, your guys' owners at all. Obviously, they've got mega money. The Radfords don't have that sort of level of investment. I think what you have to do is, when you pump your money into developing a club and trying to stay up, there's only so much money you can put into it. And the Radfords have got a budget. They've given Nigel Clough and his team a budget. And unfortunately, Lewis Brunt doesn't quite fit into that in terms of what you guys have obviously put on the table for him. You look at the business that we've done this summer as a general, we've not spent a single penny on any of the players that we brought in, yet we've brought in quality. And the one player that we have got out that was already in the squad, we've got money for. So we do business very, very shrewdly. And, Nigel Clough will have other targets in mind for Lewis Brunt. And it's just one of those things. I think more than anything, it's just a disappointment that we couldn't keep one of the promotion winning squad back with us. But you know what they say, never fall in love with a lone player.
Yeah, well, I did that and he signed, so it's not so bad for me.
Is that Mike Lake? Is that Mike Lake?
Yeah, it's Mike Lake. Yeah, he was crap when he signed permanently.
He was. What a difference, man. Matty Derbyshire was one for me. Oh, Derby.
Yeah, Matt Derbyshire, legend. If you didn't know who was on about, it was Arthur Okonkwo, as you can tell by Andrew Gilpin's eye roll. Perfectly timed eye roll. Right, Craig, we've had a few questions from people. Before I sort of go through a couple of them, just tell us how the move for Brunt initially came about. Was he brought in? At what point was he brought in? Was he brought in to fill a gap for an injured player? How did that come about, and what was your initial thoughts?
Yeah, exactly that, really. I mean, at this time last season, Lewis Brunt was not even on Mansfield Town's radar at all. We had 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐧𝐭. To be fair, even at this time last year, Aidan Flint wasn't on the radar either. We had 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐧𝐿 and Bailey Cargill as the two sort of main centre halves, if you like. We bring Aidan Flint in, pretty much at the start of the season. He's available on a free. We get a little bit lucky with bringing him in, and we're thinking, oh my God, we've gone a level above what we perhaps thought we would do. We start the season off quite well with 𝐤𝐤𝐧𝐭 and Flint forming a nice little partnership, and then Doncaster away, 2 or 3 games into the season, out of nowhere, 𝐤𝐤𝐧𝐭 just pulls up and he goes down off the ball. We all know that's it. He's going to be out for the season. We need another centre back, and Lewis Brunt then comes in. And to be honest, I think we were all thinking at the time he's just sort of come in to make the numbers up and sort of be there as a spare part and just to be utilised if and when we need him. But he came in and pretty much played the majority of games. I'd probably say about 95% of the games, and really developed under Aidan Flint and became a real mainstay in that squad. Like every young player, he had mistakes in him and did cost us a few times in games, but he looked like a very good, competent centre-back who could also play in midfield and gave us some options and really blossomed under Aidan Flint. But I think this time around, the move for him was more of wanting to keep the nucleus of that squad together, as every promotion winning side does, and sort of looking at him for the future. But if we're completely honest, I'm sure we'll cover this more as we go into it. It would have been nice to bring him in, but we didn't really need him, and we don't really need him going into next season. So more than anything, I think the main reaction has been it's frustration because it's you guys, as it is anywhere, isn't it? When any player signs for you, and the fact that we put a bid in and it wasn't accepted and you didn't. And that's that. We wish him all the best. But yeah, it wasn't really on our radar this time last year. And, you know, I think we certainly will look at him when he returns as a I wouldn't say a legendary status, but certainly part of that squad who, if they ever turn up in Mansfield in a bar, won't need to buy a drink.
Okay, so you still probably get a half decent applause on the dates we play you. You would probably get a bit of a mix.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's a really good young player. We appreciated him for being a young player who came in and brought into what the club wanted, and you know he had to adapt his style a little bit to fit how Nigel Clough was playing, and yeah, just sort of grew with the culture and grew with the club. And I don't think anybody has got a bad word to say about him, really.
Yeah, I think his last game in a Mansfield shirt was at Wrexham. He had injured his ankle ligament damage in that game.
Yeah, picked up a bit of a knock towards the back end of last season. Jordan Barry ended up filling in at centre back as he often does, and I think we were all sort of hoping that he might be fit again. But I think we'd sort of got to that point, and we just we'd got over the line, and it was what it was, really.
Yeah, a lot of the questions that we've had kind of centre around the same sort of issue, same sort of subject. Really, is where do you feel is his best position? Because he's quite versatile. Obviously, central defence seems to be the main key, but he can play left back. He can play midfield. Where did he play for you primarily, and what are his main kind of strengths, would you say?
Yeah, definitely a centre back in a back four for us, either left side or right side, predominantly left side, really. Really, really solid there. Obviously, had Aidan Flint guiding him through and sort of getting in his ear all game and really bringing him on. Personally, I think his best position is that centre back role in a back four. Be interesting to see how he fits with you guys. I know we'll talk about it more in a minute because he'll probably play more of a back three than a back four. Although he can play there, he did it for Leicester. Played a couple of games in central defensive midfield for us, just in front of that back four, and I felt really, really flourished. When he actually came to us, he not played many games actually at centre back. He played more in that midfield role, and I think sort of saw himself as a bit more of a ball playing midfielder, defensive midfielder sort of role, and just sort of slotted into that centre back slot nicely, really. Played right back on a couple of occasions for us when needed. Didn't really pull up any trees at right back, but definitely for me, for the future, I think you've got to look at him as an out-and-out centre back who can slot into midfield, a defensive role if needed.
Wow. So, I mean, that does open up, as Sunday said, that we could be seeing a potential change in formation, or at least a swifter plan B, Andy. 4-4-2. What's that shake of the head for?
No, I'm never going to change formation. Come on. That's never going to happen. Absolutely not. There won't be. Parky won't have that plan B. What he will do is get better players to choose his favoured formation, a 3-5-2, and he'll develop within that. If he's got a quicker player, he might play a bit further up. If he's got a more ball player on the left-hand side, he'll slightly adapt his play within his formation. But to say he's going to go out and go 4-4-2, you've been smoking crack, Tim.
It sounds to me very much
like
Tomo Conor.
Me. That wasn't me. Sorry, Andy.
No, it sounds very much like Tomo Conor when he came in as a sitting defensive midfielder who's good with the ball, and then obviously dropped back into the left side of the three centre halves. And so you're thinking that's probably the natural position here as well. But then there's the chance to step in if maybe George Evans is out and missing games. Obviously, he missed 2 months of the season last year, and we struggled to fill that gap. So it's I think that with Brunty, as we're now going to call him because we're all best mates because he's a Wrexham player. With Brunty, it's this is a sign that gets my juices flowing a little bit.
Craig, is he pacey? There's another question about what because we felt that we definitely needed pace, especially going into a higher division. Does he bring that to the table?
Yeah, he certainly does. He's got a little bit of pace about him. He likes to get forward as well on the ball. I think the one thing which Nigel Clough criticised him quite often about was they didn't release the ball quick enough for his liking. Clough doesn't like to mess about. He likes to get the ball forward into the midfield areas, but Lewis moved into midfield quite quickly with it and would like to play a lot higher up. And I think that 3-5-2 formation, I'm completely with Andrew there as well. I don't think Phil Parkinson will change that for you next year. I think 3-5-2 is pretty much in his bloodstream, isn't it? I don't think he'll move to 4-4-2 anytime soon. And I think Lewis Brunt might actually suit that. I think it will take him a while to adapt to sitting into that left side sort of centre back role. But what he will do is he will get you up into the pitch, higher up in the pitch quite quickly. He does like to run with the ball and dribble with the ball. The problem you will face, and this is the criticism that any Mansfield fan has with him, is when he does wander too high and loses the ball, he doesn't then know what to do. He doesn't have that awareness, because he is a young player, of what then to do. There's a prime example that I can give you. Go back and watch it. Colchester away last season. We're playing with a little bit more freedom. He sort of brought the ball up towards the halfway line, dribbled from the edge of his box, went to pass it forward. The pass was never on. Dilly-dallied on the ball for a little bit too much, lost it. And then he had a choice, either track back with his runner or go and close down. He should have tracked back with his runner. He closed down, opened the gap in behind him. Obviously, then the only last man standing is Aidan Flint. And as brilliant as he is, he doesn't have the pace that he once possessed, and we got caught out and conceded a goal from it. And every time that Brunt made a mistake, it was exactly on that same level, a carbon copy. So, he's got a little bit of pace about him. He likes to get on the ball. He likes to pass it. He likes to go up. He's got a decent shot on him as well. I wouldn't be too surprised if he tries a few from the edge of the box, if he does play in a more of a midfield role, and certainly from set pieces is an asset for you there as well.
He scored 2, didn't he?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, he did.
Were they shots or headers? You remember off the top of your head?
I think just sort of in and around the box from set pieces. I think one came off his elbow. I think they weren't ones to remember.
Craig, just thinking about what you're saying there about how he likes to bring the ball forward, how he's quite quick at the release, but how he can be caught out. I do wonder if the 3-5-2 might suit him a bit more then, because you do have license for one of your centre halves to come out with the ball, and one of your defensive mid may cover them. So maybe that's something that Parkinson will maybe try and sort of not knock out of his game. But I think you're right to say that it's when to release the ball and when to even come back with it if you have to.
I think a big part of that is actually getting it back into his game, because I think Nigel Clough and the way that he sets up took that out towards the back end of last season. But again, he's come from a system in Leicester who play exactly that way with the 3 centre backs, the 3-5-2 formation. So he's used to sort of playing in that, whether that be in a defensive midfield role or a left side or right side centre half role. He's never really the middle of the 3 is either one or the other sides, which is testament to the pace he's got and the ability he's got on the ball. I think what his thing will be, and I can understand why Phil Parkinson has identified him as a target, because he does sort of fit that formation very, very well. And when we were sort of discussing whether or not we would change formation last year, we always saw Brunt as the potential one to sit into a back 3. In fact, when we brought him in, that was the initial discussion that we had. Are we going to change now to go to a back 3? We didn't in the end, but yeah, he's got that about him. He's got that little bit of a game now. So I think the biggest thing for Lewis Brunt now will be who sits alongside him, whether that be somebody covering him from defensive midfield if you are going to play that back 3, or who is alongside him within that back 3, because is a young player, and obviously young players develop on their own merit, but there is absolutely no doubt that Lewis Brunt has grown in ability and grown in his development over the last 12 months, thanks by no small part to being mentored and playing alongside week in, week out Aidan Flint. The development of him from his very first game to his last game was absolutely phenomenal. I think that's why we rated him so highly, and that's why his development's gone quite quickly. So for Phil Parkinson now, the next piece of the jigsaw, if I was a Wrexham supporter, would be, where does he sit? Who sits next to him? And who's going to be his mentor? Let's not forget, he's still a young player with lots and lots of potential, playing in a division that he's never played in before. And, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on him than what there would have been if he was wearing the amber and blue next season. So it's all about who looks after him and who mentors him now to enable him to develop, and ultimately for you guys to hopefully in 2 or 3 seasons to cash in on him on a move to a higher level.
Craig, are you daring us to get Aidan Flint? Are you saying that probably the next part of our evolution is to take your captain as well?
Well, no, because Aidan Flint will never leave Mansfield.
Yeah, they always say that.
I honestly, that's the one player. If I had to stake everything I had on never leaving the club, it would be him, because logistically, and now that we've signed Lee Gregory as well, I think that's sort of him cemented now. So tell you what, who can you have? You have
Well,
him and Boateng. You have Boateng.
Will you come back on next week when he signs with 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐧𝐭? Just for a laugh.
I think we're making the point there about the players around him. I think Brunty is in like the ideal spot where you'd have Owen O'Connell as the central centre half. You'd have George Evans as the sitting in holding midfielder, as it were, and then you've got James McLean as well, vastly experienced on the left side, probably as our starting left wing back. So it's like there's three people there that should be able to, in theory, bring him along nicely.
Yeah, I think you've certainly got the players within the ranks. I think it's about forming those relationships, isn't it? And then just getting into a little bit of a rhythm. It wasn't a smooth start for Lewis when he was here. It took a few games to sort of bed in, and he's going to be in that new environment as well. I think what you've got to also think about with Lewis here is the other side of football, which we don't talk about that often, and that is the logistics to where he's moved. He was a Leicester lad. So he was still living locally with family. Mansfield was only down the road. It's only an hour and 20 or so on a bad day down the road for him. And now he's uprooted his entire life to come and live in Wrexham or move near to Wrexham or whatever that may be. That'll mean moving away from family. So there's a big adaptation there to his lifestyle. So it's not just about getting him settled and sort of ready and getting those partnerships formed on the pitch as well. It's about getting those things off the pitch in place for him too.
Yeah, I imagine we start the season with Tomo Conor as that left side centre half. Pretty much start off as we ended with Tom, Owen O'Connell, and Max, and then it's a case of see how things go, see how things settle, and then take from there. But it just seems like a really smart, sensible squad addition, to be honest. Whether that's to play every game every week, or whether that's to play 20 games, whether that's to play 30 games, just seems like very shrewd business. Although that being said, we don't actually know the business side of it because it was an undisclosed fee. So. Yeah.
Right. Can I throw something literally left field into here? Right. From what Craig said, he's pacey, right? He's likes getting forward and he's good on the ball. Could he be our left wing back? Could Parky be looking to move him there? I don't know. I mean, from what Craig is saying, yeah, he needs leaders in the back. Well, at the moment, if we played a back three of Max, who's very young, Owen, who has a ricket in him but is a good talker, and Brunt with Arthur Okonkwo behind him, who's also very young, does it seem quite a little, not really a huge amount of experience back there? And might Parky be looking to do something a little bit different with him? I don't know. I mean, Craig, is that a possibility, or are we not really utilising him to his strengths there?
You can tell he's been to Glastonbury and expanded their mind these last few days. Give me these left field suggestions.
Well, I think
outside the box. I think outside the box after 4 days on the.
Well, I think if you want to get any return on an investment for Lewis Brunt, take that thought, put it back in the box, seal it with gaffer tape, and never open it again. But I think you've got a point that he's still young, isn't he? He's only ever played one full season of EFL football. So what you do with him now is really down to the coaching staff and the vision that you've got for him for the future. Personally, I think you've developed, if you've watched a player develop for a year at a club that's similar to yours and a setup which is similar to yours, coaching staff and management wise, I think you'd be daft to then take him from the position where he's developed and played to then make him learn a whole new craft at a level that he's never played before. Yes, he's got the pace. Yes, he's got the ability on the ball. Crossing ability, I wouldn't say so from the few games that I watched him play at right back, but you never know. Personally, I think he's there to come in and occupy one of those centre half slots and be a cover in midfield for you.
I think that's basically Craig's aware that you saw Avril Lavigne at Glastonbury, and he's saying, "Why are you going to make things so complicated?" He's a centre half.
You got me that music reference.
On the flip side of that, though, I think maybe, I don't know, could we try Tomo Conor as a left-sided wing back? Would that work? Obviously, he's not exactly electric pace, but he's very comfortable on the ball. He can put decent balls into the box. Don't know. The good thing is there's options. There's options all over the place, which I like.
With O'Connor, I mean, we bought him as a starting defensive mid, and
Yeah.
if you just said he'd end up playing left-sided centre half, we'd have gone, well, that's stupid. We bought him to do one job. We need someone to do that job. And Parky, in fairness, not only tried him there, but made it work there. So as Parky, the Parky, the 3-5-2 dinosaur isn't strictly true, because yes, he will not move away from 3-5-2, but within that, he will try different things, different formations. Not different formation, different sort of ways to play within the formation. And he found something that worked last season, the free ball playing centre halves, that got us further up the pitch and didn't mean that we had to just boot the ball to Ollie Palmer all the time. And it worked. And so maybe he's got something else in mind. I'd never discount Phil Parkinson. I've learned that over the last couple of years.
Never.
You're going to put magic mushrooms in his tea, Andy, because that's where I feel like this is going. It's just the old square pegs in round holes thing. I can see the thinking outside the box, but I think he's going to be there. He's there.
Can't wait for him to go 4-4-2 versus Vancouver. It'd be amazing.
And blow all our minds. But like, speaking realistically, I mean, he's got to be. He's there to fulfill one of two positions in terms of centre back or central defensive mid. If we're going to play players to their strengths, which I think we need to try and do, I think, that's just my view on it. I don't want to poo-poo Andy's magical mystery theories.
Sure. Craig, obviously, thank you for giving us the full SP on Lewis, and thanks to people who put the questions in. I didn't name everybody because most of them were pretty much alluding to the same thing. How do you think both Wrexham and Mansfield will adjust to life in League One next season, based on what you've seen from Wrexham last season? And obviously, we're slowly building. It's like a slowly but surely situation for us at the moment. 2 in. We need to get rid of some players, but there's definitely going to be a few more coming in. How do you see it? Because we're both under no illusions as to how tough this division. I look at that division, I think it must be one of the most fiercely contested League Ones I've ever seen. If you think of the big fish that are in it, it has to be up there.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division for sure next season. I think what both squads and what both clubs have got is an infrastructure in place that knows that it's going to be a difficult battle and that they are preparing accordingly for it. And I think what you've got is also two parallels. You've had this fantastic, successful season after season after season. If you think back the last 3 seasons, 2 back-to-back promotions and a playoff final as well. You've been used to winning games. You've been used to success and having it your own way in the nicest way possible. And I think what you're going to experience next season, as are we, is somewhat of a culture shock. There are bigger fish in that pond to come in, and what you've done in those 3 seasons is kept a nucleus of a squad together, which has been able to take the momentum forward. What you've done now is you've hit a point where that squad has got to break up because it's no longer suitable for the level that you want to play at. And what comes with that is having to get players in who are going to buy in to the mentality and ethos that the club have built. And because of the mentality and the ethos that the club have built, there's also an expectation from that player that there might be an extra zero on the paycheck or whatever that may be, an extra incentive for them to be there. And it's a pressurized environment. So it'd be interesting from an external point of view to see how Phil Parkinson and the staff there, including Steve Parker, of course, who Mansfield fans know very, very well, our former manager and captain, it'd be interesting to see how they put their squad together and how quickly that gels. The parallel to that is Mansfield have kept the nucleus of their promotion-winning squad together, with the exception of 3 players. Callum Johnson, who we let go because he was injured for the most of the season, now signed for Bradford. Obviously, Lewis Brunt, who we had on loan, who is now with you guys. And Ollie Clark, who we were going to keep on, but an offer came in from Swindon. His missus is pregnant. He wants to move back closer to home. It made logistical sense for him at his age. So we've only lost 3 players in that sense from that squad. And what we've done is brought in players who bolster that squad, but we've not brought in too many. And in keeping the nucleus, we're able to sort of build that momentum a little bit forward, whereas you guys have sort of got to do that little bit of extra work. And I think, to answer your question, it's going to be all about how the squad gels when they come up against times of difficulty, because when you have success, we had success last season in the run that we went on and getting promotion. You've had success over the last 3 with the momentum you've built. When you have success, you're used to things going well. And when it hits the fan, sometimes it can be a little bit of a culture shock. And then your real characters show in your dressing room, your real leaders in the dressing room show as well. You've just lost one of your real key leaders in Ben Tozer, of course, who you released, and now with Forest Green. And it's those characters in the dressing room which ultimately get you through those rough patches. And when the cameras are on you, because they won't turn off just because you're losing games or going through a muddy spell, it's all about how those players stand up and be counted. From our point of view, we've got a lot of those leaders in our squad. Your Aidan Flints, your Stephen Quinns, your Stephen McLaughlin's, etc., etc. You guys are having a big turnover in that respect. So it's all about who steps up. I think both sides will be all right, because I do genuinely think that we're both adding quality additions that once we get going, we'll see ourselves in a good mid-table season. And I also think that there are teams in that division that are, in inverted commas, worse in terms of their budget, in terms of being able to attract players as well. So I think we'll both be all right, but I think it'll be a bit of a culture shock, and it's about having the right characters in place for both sides. And I think also for both fans, I mean, Mansfield fans were used to things not necessarily going our way and things being a little bit rough. So we're happy to finish one place outside the relegation zone and just consolidate. Wrexham fans, all of you guys, from chatting to you over the years, I know you've been there through the crap as much as the good times, but there's a big majority of the supporters that are within your stadium week in, week out, we've only ever known good. So it's all about managing their expectations and the toxicity levels that come with that as well. So I think it's about managing expectation and putting out a good brand of football, which isn't necessarily, I don't mean that in terms of necessarily meaning winning games, but putting out a brand of football that knows that they're going to compete for the shirt and be able to be difficult to beat and grind out results.
Craig, you sound like one of the most sensible Wrexham fans I've ever met. I got daggers the other day because I said I'd happily take like 14th place consolidation and that's it. And it's like, why would you do that? What a loser mentality. It's like, well, there's got to be, not every year is going to be smashing through every league. There's got to be time to stop and build. And it just, yeah. And like you said, the bigger fish analogy. It's like 𝐁𝐫𝐿 said in Star Wars Episode 1, there's always a bigger fish. Just to bring that in there somehow.
Therein lies the problem, though, isn't it? You get slated for saying, 14th would be a good finish, because you've set up this narrative. The producers of the documentary have set up this narrative of back to back to back to back, or whatever it may be, and have built this up about winning games. And I think one of the things which I found frustrating as a football fan last season is watching the documentary and it being almost like your life's over when you were dropping out of the top 3. You were still up there, you were still competing and winning games. I think you guys would have felt that frustration as well. You can see that you're onto something good and building something, and when things don't happen instantaneously, there's a big part of that fan base which might turn, might not come back, and there's a big pressure on Phil Parkinson and the players. And I hope for his point of view that he and for the long-standing supporters that have been there, in the bad times as well as the good, that does shine through and doesn't affect you too much, because we all know what happens when things don't start going well and people get bored who have got money. They spend it elsewhere.
Yeah, there was the season before last. We drew with Woking 2-2 on a Tuesday night, and to be fair to Woking, they were the better team. We were lucky to get a point, and that was the only point we dropped all season in the league at home. We won every other game, and coming out the ground, there's just all these people having massive barneys, and the one term just stays in my head. Some old fella saying disgraceful. All the players were disgraceful. It's like, we've drawn one game at home all season. We're in at the time we were second, Woking were third, a very good Woking team, and like I said, we were lucky to get a point. And it's just some of the expectation now is, it's just.
I think when that happens, it's important to try and use it as some sort of positive, because we all know it's coming. we all know it's going to happen. I just hope it doesn't happen straight off the bat. We sort of go in and lose the first 6. that'd be pretty crap. To
Well,
be
we saw at the
honest.
beginning of this season, Tim, where I mean, last week we had Jeff Louini on, one of the executive producers of the documentary, and we broke down each episode. And you forget that there were people leaving the stadium early after the very first game of the season, our first game back in the Football League in 15 years, and there's people leaving early because we got our pants pulled down by 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐧𝐭 and we deserve to get beat. But it's like, hold on, there's going to be an adaptation phase, and it's going to be the same again this season. It's just, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just because I'm a little bit too relaxed at times, but I think just,
you know, things don't happen overnight, do they? And I think the genuine football fan will appreciate that. It's just about getting that momentum. I think for for these teams, it's about getting a good start, isn't it? And just, you know, getting off to a good thing. Because if you get a good start, your squad generally then starts to gel and gets a little bit tighter. And when you've had an overhaul of players, which you guys have as well, you know, this summer, it's important to not let those little bits of negativity and those little arguments and stuff creep in, because once the one rotten apple gets in the basket, the whole lot's gone, isn't it? So it's just about focus and getting it right, really. And maybe that can be the risk with young players as well. Sometimes it's a fine balancing act. And I think at this League One level, you know, I'm really excited for this season to see what it'll bring, because there's some real big hitters in that league. But again, football's an amazing game. Anyone can beat anybody, and we all start. You know, the best part of the season for me is about a second before the first whistle gets played on the opening game of the season, because it's a stark reminder that everybody starts off equal, and it's about what you make of it from that point onwards. I can't wait.
It's a long old season.
5-3 by Dons, and everybody walks out early. Yeah, how things change in 90 minutes. Or not even that.
But I mean, loads of stuff changes so swiftly, doesn't it? Because I remember when we played 3 times Mansfield last season, you know, and if you'd have told me we would have taken 4 points and won through the FA Cup, because I remember at the time thinking we've got a bit of a scalp here, because I think you hadn't lost for like months. I think you were 3 or 4 months without defeat, and you were flying, and without doubt, probably the team with the best brand of football. For me at that point, without doubt, you know, we got away with it in the initial match. I think it was Arthur's first or second game. I missed second game. So you know, you got up there in the end, but early doors I probably would have put you as well. It's theirs to lose. So it's amazing how things can turn around so fast. So it's a long old season, but
well, there's the thing, you know, you say that now, you know, when we were there at the start of the season, not one of us expected to go on this unbeaten run where we'd go so far in a cup competition. You know, we'd be winning games and have this longest home record, whatever it would be. Nobody saw us doing that, because for us, we weren't at the best at where we were, but a lot of it came from just keeping that squad together and, you know, picking up from where we'd left off the previous season. So I think if we can do that again this year, in terms not going on the run that we did, I'm not daft. That's definitely not going to happen this time around. But, you know, just keeping that nucleus together and finding that momentum from where we finished, then, you know, that's as good a thing that we can ask for as any. And, you know, the games that we took you guys on last season, the FA Cup game had sort of come a little bit after, you know, I think we'd lost our first game to Port Vale very, very narrowly. Probably shouldn't have lost it. And that was sort of this little bit of start of our little bit of a rut. I remember that, I think that was the FA Cup game, wasn't it, where it absolutely hammered it down, and that game actually ruined our pitch for a little bit, and that actually then hampered us the next couple of months after that. So football's a strange thing, isn't it? Strange thing.
S4C ruined your pitch, mate. They demanded the game went ahead. Yeah, so yeah, you can blame the Welsh language for that. Actually, do not blame the Welsh language for that. That is oh god.
That was biblical rain.
If anyone's got any complaints about that comment, can you please send them to, was it Andrew 𝐁𝐫𝐿𝐵 at
hotmail.com?
Yeah.
Or go for work email addresses. Send them there. They're always fun. Yeah.
Craig, you've been absolutely brilliant. Before we let you go, I've got one last question. It's to do with you and Tim. You've both got a stag in your background. Who's got the best stag?
Where's mine? I mean, it's got to be mine, hasn't it? Mine's an actual stag.
Yours is wearing a scarf. Tim, can you put a scarf on yours?
I think,
all right. I'll do it.
I've got more than one. You can't see the other one. I had one behind my head.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
I've got one there, and then one.
No, that's the one I was on about.
Oh, right. No, there's one here as well. Where are we?
He's
There's
double
the-
stagged
Oh,
you,
nice,
Tim.
nice.
There's the other
He's
one.
double stagged you. He's won.
Mighty
Craig's
stag
won.
there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was winning, so I got match on my Randy Savage on my wall up there behind me. So by default, oh yeah, that's a victory.
Right, that was brilliant. Really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for your time, Craig. Really good discussion, and hope it's a shame because you speak to a sensible fan and you want to hate clubs, but now I sort of think, oh, I hope Mansfield do all right. But if I do that 23 times,
I know. Do you know that's the thing as well? You know, just very briefly before I leave you guys to it, is a lot of people look at Wrexham now as a rival because of what you've got and where you've got onto. I remember playing each other when we were both really, really in the doldrums and, you know, going down together all those years. I've always enjoyed a visit, and whenever I spoke to you guys as well, it's been great. So I genuinely wish you all the very best for next season. And Lewis Brunt as well, a good young player that you've got on your hands there. I hope that he does well for you in all but 2 games next season. And I hope that we both finish outside the bottom 4 with Mansfield just that one place above, just how it should have been last season.
Fighting talk in the end. Fighting talk right at the back.
cheers, Craig. Thank you so
Cheers,
much.
guys.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
Craig.
for your time, Craig.
Take
Cheers.
care, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Right,
What a
I
lovely
think-
fella. What a lovely,
Yeah,
lovely dude.
absolutely. Yeah. Right. Anything else to talk about? We haven't talked about George signing
Oh,
on.
you went, yeah. Anyway,
That's the hooligan in Gilpin. That's it.
He was a really lovely fella. You just like, yeah, fuck him.
Well, the thing is, he's gone, and I've moved on. I've moved on now. Craig is yesterday's
Right,
news to
man.
me. Absolutely.
Brutal.
proper
Um,
journo.
Right.
Unbelievable.
George
Scum.
George has signed on. I know I'm trying to change everything on this team, but can I just say one thing? I think
Up
long
front.
term,
George up
Long
front, is it?
no, long term, I think he will drop back into central defence, and I think he'll become more of a right-sided centre half. I really do. I do, and I've talked to my Millwall mate again about this, who said that when he played centre half, he was great for us, but when he moved into midfield, he just thought he was lacking something. And League Two is fine. I think you're stepping up again another level in League One. He may adapt to it. It may be that he has got a little bit more time and there's not a bleeding centre mid breathing down his neck, and so he can play those passes that we all know he's got. But a few times he was caught out, especially the match where he got sent off and looked a little frustrated. So I do wonder maybe if he would drop back. But the good thing about him is he is adaptable and he can play in a number of positions as well. So
See, with that, I was lucky enough to do a thing with Phil Parkinson earlier this year, and we were talking about George Evans, and he said that they'd been to scout him a few times when he was at Millwall, and he was really good at certain things, but there were a few things in his game that weren't quite there. But then it was the case of stepping back and thinking, well, that's the Championship. If we drop down to, if you can get him to League Two, then those, I don't want to say deficits, but the weaker parts of his game don't shine through so much because it's 2 divisions below. And I think the same will be, I think in League One as well, will be fine. But I think him dropping back to, I just see him being like a really classy centre half that just I mean, he's a classy fella. It's gorgeous, George. Just look at the man. He's an absolute beauty. One of the most impressive specimens I think we've had in recent memory at Wrexham. But yeah.
Do we need to do a handsome Wrexham 11?
Did it, remember?
Maybe Johnny Cross is in there, I think.
we?
But,
Did
yeah, I'd say Johnny, young Johnny Cross.
we did it with Al-Haf.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a sexy Wrexham 11. Not quite the same, is it?
Oh my God, mate!
What is a difference
I
between
don't know.
sexy and handsome?
Well,
I see.
yeah. I mean, you kind of. I'm on about footballers that could technically be the next James Bond. George Evans fits that bill.
And he can also play as an inverted winger as well.
Yeah. 4-4-2.
Yeah. Oh wow! I'm thinking that Wrexham players now who'd be the most suited to be James Bond throughout the years. I think Psycho could have got away with it when he had hair.
Tweet us, drop a comment in this YouTube thingy below. Buy us a coffee, all that caper.
I mean,
but yeah.
he was an absolute car toss, and he was dog shit.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. John
Drew Broughton.
Walters.
Who?
Oh well, maybe not.
Oh.
John Walters. I thought you.
Oh no, Johnny Walters. He drew around his bogs off for us, to be fair. Then he went to that shit down the road.
Characters of 2 players. Drew
Yeah,
Broughton.
no.
Too tall to be Bond.
Yeah,
tall.
possibly. I don't know. With Daniel Craig, all things are off with Bond. All typical Bond tropes.
Let's go around the room. Right, you've gone with Drew Broughton.
It's not my number 1 choice, but go around the room and I'll have a proper thing.
On the hoof now. Who would be a player that? And we're not allowed gorgeous George because he started this this kind of idea. So we'll put him as an exempt. But who would you have as a Wrexham player, past or present, who would be a James Bond type figure? I'm going to go for Manny Smith.
Oh,
Nice.
I like it.
Smooth
He's
criminal.
sort of unshaken but not stirred, isn't he? He's quite a cool sort of character.
Customer and supremely fit. Remember that full season he played every game. So I'd have Manny Smith. Liam?
I'm going to go for 𝐓𝐚𝐤𝐧𝐠. Just got the jawline of a Bond star, I think. Beautiful man. I saw him on TV for, was it Man City? He's coaching the women now.
Ladies, these days, yeah.
Still looks absolutely beautiful, aging like a fine wine. So I think he fits the criteria. Andy's shaking his head.
I wanted sexy Gareth Taylor. I tell you what, Anthony Ford, we're going to have another Irish James Bond.
I guess I'm going to go Andy Marriott as my James Bond.
Right, we need to put this to the public vote. This will be out on X in the coming days, and you can vote for. So Marriott for you, Mr. Pollard. Gilpin, you went for 40.
Yeah.
Liam, you went for. Who did you go for again? Gaz Taylor, sexy Gaz.
I mean, to be fair, I quite like to go for Craig Skinner for the alternative indie James Bond that likes a bit of Shed 7. It's
yeah.
But no, that's not the role.
Smith. Okay, I think this has the capacity to get people in a right tiz as to who they would put forward for the next James Bond. So there you go, some good solid contenders there. Much to my amusement was Andy's disgust that Liam pipped him ahead of Housewives' favourites, sexy Gaz Taylor. So
right. I need to tie this up because I want to watch the second half of the Euros. But before we do that, I'm just sharing this again, and nothing has ever gone wrong when I've shared screen.
Oh, Jesus.
Out every Wednesday. Get your great newsletter. Get it at the moment. It's 28p a week. Me and Tim work really hard on it. It's got loads of stuff on there that we can't say on the podcast. We've got quite a few subscribers, but we need more paid subscribers because that's the only way that we eat off this. So please, if you
Port Vale have more for their the equivalent version of this, so we need to beat them because obviously we're playing them soon.
Port Vale have 4 times more than we have, but the thing is, we've only just started ours, while Port Vale have been going for quite a while.
There's nothing to do with Port Vale.
Don't let Port Vale win.
No,
don't let them win.
No, last time I went to Port Vale, the coach got bricked. It was fantastic, brilliant.
Yeah,
lovely place.
Grim scenario.
Right.
Anyway,
this transfer special. Loved it. Love to talk about transfers. It's been great to talk about transfers, isn't it?
Transfers. We haven't mentioned. We've gone through the entire episode without mentioning Dolly Parton. Some doing that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I believe she's busy with Ollie Palmer right now, so can't come to the phone.
I mean, you got to say it's another great way of giving the season a good plug. So we'll just send Dolly Parton a scarf and do a funny little skit, and all of a sudden we've got,
content.
We've got ranchmen with lassos that are now sort of sitting down to watch what the club's all about. It's just mental, and it's great.
I think to me that was the out of all the random A-list names in whatever field we've had, that was the most surprising one. I'm like, Dolly Parton, and she's just chatting away about Wrexham, and then Rob joins a video call with her, then Ryan joins a video call with her, and she has no idea who Ryan is, but loves. It's just it's brilliant. It was I put a big smile on my face.
Rob breaks character momentarily when he sort of has a bit of a chuckle, which I don't think was initially supposed to be kept in, but it was good and it worked. So welcome Dolly P to the Wrexham family. It wasn't even supposed to rhyme. I'm not a rapper. But there we are. Anyway, I think we're all done on the Bond front. We're all done on the transfer front. Guaranteed, there's going to be something else happened as soon as this goes out. Something else will happen. That HP printer thing will kick into overdrive again, and we'll get
some new ink.
Max on a 5-year deal or something like that, extension. So
I love that.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be good. But thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to people who did the questions. Thanks for Liam for hosting. Thanks for the 2 Andrews to coming on from their various weekend festivities. I don't know what you did, Andrew.
Sway the Manic Street Preachers on Friday.
Same.
Sorry, Llangollen even. That was lovely. Lovely.
Happy days. I got kicked in the face at Outbreak Festival. So it's a winner. So it still hurts. There we go. Anyway, lovely. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Buy us a coffee. Andy's about to say something else. Subscribe to the newsletter because it's 28p. That's 28p for a newsletter, 28p. I'm not doing Book of Okonkwo, which Andy will be delighted, as will Liam, as will Andrew. So screw you all. I will bring it back. Hey, I did have a Dolly Parton Okonkwo song. But I'm not
Quick,
gonna do it.
wrap it up quick.
I mean, I don't want to hear it, but now you've said that, I kind of do want to hear it.
You're all breaking up.